Good afternoon. All right. Great introductory song, Cinnamon Girl. Neil Young will be here Thursday. Welcome, everyone, to Dreamforce. You having a good time? Yeah. All right. Awesome weather, huh? San Francisco in October. We got a gorgeous Indian summer day here. And how about those Giants also? Isn't that exciting? Yeah, it's exciting week in San Francisco. It'll be very exciting to see what happens when the Giants and Dreamforce are happening at the same time. Today is an awesome day. It's the official start of Dreamforce, and this is going to be a spectacular interview with Tony Profit of Microsoft. Later today, we're going to all go to see Tony Robbins at Moscone West, which I know we're going to have a great time. How many people here are going to go see Tony Robbins? All right, fantastic. And then tomorrow, we have Klaus Schwab and Hillary Clinton in the morning. We'll be out of this world. Doors are going to open in the main convention center at 8 a.m. I expect it to be sold out, so please get there early. And then we have Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, who's going to kick it off at 9 with an interview with me about how they're using Salesforce. And then he is going to give us all a taste of what the World Economic Forum is like in Davos, Switzerland, when he interviews Hillary. And then that afternoon at 1:30 is going to be our big keynote. And we're going to go through all the new technology, including the announcement of Wave, the Salesforce Analytics Cloud. And if you haven't had a chance yet to get to Moscone West to the 3rd floor, how many have been already to Moscone West on the 3rd floor? All right. We have a whole demonstration already happening of Wave, the new Salesforce Analytics Cloud, and also there's a surfboard that you can ride, which I just did. Very exciting. And then tomorrow night, we're going to close down Civic Center, and we've got 2 great bands with Bruno Mars and Cake. And that will not to be missed. Then Wednesday, all the product keynotes, full sessions, and Wednesday around 5 o'clock, will.i.am, who was the lead singer of the Black Eyed Peas, incredible innovator, brilliant businessman, will do his reveal of a new company and a new product he's been working on in wearables. And I've seen it. Salesforce has actually invested in the company, and you'll be completely blown away in what the future of technology is, and also what this incredible innovator who's kind of crossed over from the music industry into our industry has done. And then Thursday, again, another incredible leader from the music industry crossing over to the technology industry with Neil Young and his new Pono player. And how many people have already gone and seen the Pono demonstrations in the campgrounds? Anybody found that yet? Yep, in the community campgrounds, you'll see ponomusic.com and how that's running on Salesforce. But the new Pono player, which takes all of the artist's original analog recordings. So Neil has gotten the original analog recordings of the Beatles, Stevie Wonder, his songs, every major musician's songs, taken the original analog recordings, turned them into these amazing FLAC files, and they'll be running on these devices. And the quality of the music, you feel like you're in the studio with the artist. And then he'll be in conversation with Al Gore on the environment. And then we'll go into an incredible spiritual conversation with Eckhart Tolle and Arianna Huffington. So it's going to be a great 4 days, and I just touched the beginning of it. 1,450 sessions here. There's over 135,000 people signed up to be here physically. 3 million are watching this online, and we're having unbelievable innovation, unbelievable fun. But I have to tell you that what I'm most excited about at Dreamforce is the huge commitment to giving back. And we are just out launching our 1 million meal drive. How many people have already brought 1 can of food to Dreamforce? Thank you very much. And we are working hard to get to 1 million meals. And we also have an incredible program for our new children's hospitals. We've raised $8 million for our new children's hospitals through the concert tomorrow night. We also have a whole program for vets. We're working to get 10,000 jobs set up for vets in our industry, and that's a huge program, and also another huge program on public education and our K-12 system, and we're going to be talking about that as well tomorrow. So thank you very much for Dreamforce. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to innovate, have fun, and give back. And I couldn't be more excited to introduce you to a great friend of mine who is also now a great executive at Microsoft. So with no further ado, let me introduce you to, and please welcome Tony Profit. Tony, over here. Welcome.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Great to see you.
See you.
Tony Profit. All right. Well, I've been really looking forward to spending time with you, Tony, so thank you for coming here. And Tony and I have known each other for a long time, and maybe the best way to start the interview is just talk about kind of how I originally met you and your huge commitment personally to giving back and philanthropy, and it's been awesome what you've done. So can you just, just touch on, how you feel about giving back, and and also everything you did when you were at HP, and then every single program and philanthropic program we've ever done, you've participated in, has been incredible.
Okay, that's a great place to start, Mark. And first, I just underline how thrilled I am to be back again at Dreamforce. This is an event that I just couldn't miss this year. So I'm so honored to be. You brought me back this year, and so it's
this year with Microsoft.
Yes. So how we met. It's a great story. In 2010, for UCSF, there on Facebook there was a causes.com initiative, this crowdsourcing initiative, and the causes.com focus that year was on UCSF medical centers. And so you were very active in promoting it, Ron Conway, MC Hammer, and you get that competitive intensity and buzz going.
That's right.
And I said, hey, I'm going to get into this, and started an initiative on my Facebook page. I pulled some folks from HP in. HP came along, and they decided to match and partner with us in the contributions that we're making to UCSF, and it just brought the energy of the social energy, the competitive energy, the collaboration, the collegiality, and all around UCSF. And then later on at everyone's Christmas party, I met you. And here's Marc Benioff, and you're thinking this massive celebrity and this CEO who's larger than life. And at that moment, you were standing by yourself, and there was no entourage, there was no security. It was
Must
just
not have been Dreamforce.
No, it was just you. And I walked up and I said, I'll just say hi. And I said hi, and we started talking, and I'm expecting you to start looking at your watch, and you were just authentic and real and engaging, and I was so impressed by that. And I saw you again, I think it was a month or two later, and you remembered my name. And I said, wow, this is someone who must meet 1,000 people a day, certainly 1,000 people a week. And you remembered my name.
Yeah, let's not set expectations for anybody else who's here.
Yeah. And from that, and your clear leadership in the community, your philanthropic focus, and then in that instant, I said, hey, this is a person, one, I want to emulate. This is a person who's a beacon and a North Star for the community and for business leaders around the world. This is a person I want to be like. And that was the beginning of our relationship. And so our family, my wife, Anka, and I have been supporters of the UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital. We were so impressed early on, before there was any hospital. All there was just mock-ups. You had mock-ups of what was going to look like and how you're going to integrate technology into new modalities of care, the energy systems and everything, how technology was going to make this, in my view, the best care facility for children anywhere in the world. And we said, wow, we want to be a part of that. And so,
that's exciting. Thank you.
And so your vision with Lynn of what you've done there and are doing there, because you've yet to serve the first patient there, and of course the Benioff Children's Hospital is existing up in Parnassus, is just something that's just remarkable, and it'd be a timeless legacy. So that's really the first chapter in the story, and it goes on from there.
Well, you've been a huge part of the Children's Hospital story, and we're giving tours of the new Children's Hospital, which opens up February 1, so the facility is completely empty, so folks can see the next generation technology that's been built into the hospital. And when you were at HP, you were there helping us design that facility. It's got a lot of really incredible Hewlett-Packard technology in there. And anything you're especially excited about that you've seen so far with the Children's Hospital?
Well, the way that the technology interfaces with the children, because these kids are, a lot of times they might be being served quite a distance from where their family actually is. So having that sort of remote interaction technology, the ways of moving the patients in and out of the care facility for maximum efficiency, because some of these machines are huge capital investments. So the MRI and the CAT scanners, it's like almost like a factory. You have to get the maximum utilization while having the maximum, empathy for the child involved in it. And so all those systems, the energy systems, it's just going to be, a phenomenal care facility at a time when, the time when you need it most. Think about, the most difficult times in your life when you have a sick child and you want to do everything that you can for your child, and you brought into this magical facility, and it give people hope and inspiration. And so it's an incredible vision. It's an inspiration for all of us.
Well, thank you for being a huge part of the team. And I think it's so important that that's how we met and how we first came together. And then, of course, you were part of two incredible management teams at Hewlett-Packard, one led by Mark Hurd, and then also led by Meg Whitman as well, being a huge part of her vision and her strategy. And we've seen how that now has played out with HP becoming two companies. Before we move on to Microsoft, can you just give us a little insight, because you
Sure.
were, how many years were you at HP for?
8.5 years.
8.5 years. You
In
have
fact,
huge,
I say I was there 34 quarters.
34 quarters.
34 quarters. I don't measure anything in years at HP. We measured it in quarters, 34 quarters.
Can you give us just, what's your vision for what the future of Hewlett-Packard?
Well, I'll give you this.
Such an important company.
It is an icon. It's part of the foundation of Silicon Valley. A lot of the reasons why Silicon Valley is here is because of HP and the HP Garage. And you think of all the businesses that sprung up from people that left HP and went on to do great things. And I consider it the anchor point of Silicon Valley. And so I think, in my view, I think Meg has done a great job in the renaissance of HP. I think Mark also was an extraordinary leader. Though I was part of the PC business originally, I brought the operations of the PC printing business together. For the period of time I was there, for 26 of those quarters, we were the world leader in the PC business. We, year in and year out, tended to have the highest margins in the PC business and in the printer business. The unquestioned leader in ink and laser printers. So that part of the business, that HP Inc. business, I have some of my blood is still on the ground there, right? And so that's a great. I think it's going to be a great business, and the enterprise business is also, well positioned in the cloud and well positioned on the enterprise services, software, and on the hardware side as well. So I think those are going to be two great companies. They've got two great leaders. I work with Dion Weisler, who's going to be ostensibly, this is all kind of unfolding, forward-looking, this ostensibly the leader of HP Inc. and Meg, of course, and I'm advocates and fans of both, and I think it's going to be a great run. I think two or three things I would highlight of my time at HP wouldn't be the things that you'd imagine, but I think there's three things I'm really most proud of that we did at HP in the operations, because I led the operations for printing and PC. The first was a focus, bringing a focus. This is not chronological order, but just in the order of my mind, a focus on conflict minerals. And if you think about what we do in technology, and we're so far removed from a mine, somewhere in a conflict region, and we think about conflict regions, those are places like the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And in those conflict regions, what you find is that because the minerals are so valuable, it can be gold, tantalum, cobalt, et cetera, that creates an incentive to oppress people. And the people that end up being oppressed in these conflict regions are invariably women and children, end up being oppressed at the end of a weapon, right? And so when we sit back here and we say, what can we do to impact and affect that? So one focus we brought at HP was to focus on conflict minerals and accountability on conflict minerals. The second one I would highlight is the initiative that we brought for education for women involved in the supply chain of HP, which has the extended supply chain of HP has hundreds of thousands of people in it, many of them women. And for the women, the demographic is quite young. Often they're in situations where they have very little education about healthcare, right? They have very little education about their rights in situations of spousal abuse. They have very, very little education about reproductive health and reproductive issues, and so a program that we launched was to create peer teaching, cascaded peer teaching, so that we'd go into a facility, we would sponsor the training, bring the people in, and just have the basic discourse between these people where they're understanding, women are understanding more about women's healthcare issues, more about their rights, and then we challenge them to go and to tell a niece or tell their sister or tell an aunt, to have these things spread out in the communities. We've done this in Mexico, they did it in Mexico, in China. So that's the second thing that I'm proud of, where we had an impact beyond the bottom line, but having an impact on the world and the societies which we live in and touch. The big focus on the environment, big focus on our greenhouse gas footprint, big focus on the rights of young workers in China and elsewhere in the supply chain of HP. So those are the things. We made a lot of quarters and we shipped a lot of PCs, 400 million of them, during my tenure there. But the things I'm most proud of was the lasting impact we had on the communities, on the health care for women, on the conflict mineral situation, on the working life of young workers throughout the supply chain, and on the environment, from my time at HP.
It's in your career is storied, but I think one of the reasons that we connected so deeply was on these issues. And before we move into the Microsoft part of the interview, I just want to ask you, where does this come from? You have this huge interest in philanthropy.
Yeah.
That's where we met at a philanthropic event. You're at HP. You're not just doing this incredible global leadership job and outstanding, executive, but you are focused on these incredible issues of corporate social responsibility. Where does that come from inside you?
Yeah, I would point to 3 or 4, key influences in my life. First would be my mom, right? And so my mother was, she worked full time, raised the family, worked full time, commuted, came home, did the laundry, made the food, and was just literally a saint. She's still living. She's got kind of mid-stage Alzheimer's, but you can still interact with her, and so she was just an absolute inspiration. My father was in the Army. He was gone a lot. He fought in Vietnam while I was, young, and so he wasn't always in the home, but my mom was always there, and she had a service mentality. Then along the way, there have been examples of which you have been a great one. Folks like Ron Conway and Bill Campbell have been extraordinary ones. And then when you meet people like you, then you meet other people who also, you see that they have many, many places they can put their time and their resources, their attention and their treasure. And that when they take, look, I'm going to have an impact on the world. It's not about how big of a monument I can build to myself. It's the impact I can leave on the community and the people around me. And that just, those things have just inspired me. I would say up until like 3 or 4 years ago, we were pretty diffuse in kind of how we focused our efforts, my wife and I. And then I was listening to Laura Arriaga Andreessen and her Giving 2.0, and how you're being much more strategic.
Mm-hmm.
She came to
She's
HP.
actually going to speak right here at Dreamforce.
Yeah.
Very excited.
And then listen, when she's take notes and listen, because she really is an absolute expert on it. Her and Marc are also great examples for everyone. And she talked about being more strategic, finding a few issues. So we're focused, our family now is focused on women with HIV, healthcare for children, education for low-income teens, just 3 things. And so we started saying no to a lot more things than we used to, and focused on just those 3 things, and then investing more of our personal time. And so those have been kind of the waypoints along the way that have guided, focused, led, been a compass point or a North Star for us to come to where we are. And it's obviously a step in the journey, and there's many, many, many steps ahead. But I just want to thank you and just express the admiration. And there's so many people you inspire you will never know. I'm just one that can actually sit across the stage and tell you. But there's thousands and tens of thousands of people out there that are inspired by what you do and some of the other folks I highlighted. So.
I want to know how making this such a priority in your life. How has this impacted you as a leader? In your company. Mm-hmm. How has it changed how you lead and spend your time? And has it helped you become even more successful?
I would say it has given me a much greater sense of empathy for folks around me, kind of the last decade of my career, a higher sense of empathy and trying to put myself in the shoes of others. I mean, obviously in the midst of a fight, it's a challenge, but always when you kind of step back and pull the lens back, I mean, I think having that empathy is absolutely essential. And then the sorts of folks that we work with, we try to help and we try to partner with, when you're meeting these people from these different demographics that aren't at all different from where I came from, but they're different than where we are today, it just gives you that sense of empathy for whatever race, gender, any kind of sexual orientation, any of those things, that no one should be treated unfairly, differently, just because they're different. We all have the same rights. We all have the same rights.
How do you see our industry transforming in that area? Are we making progress? Are we moving forward on that issue?
I would say yes. I honestly, because I've been in the industry now. I worked in before I came to HP. I worked in the industrial world, the aerospace world. But I'd say industry broadly, I think we are making real progress. I think the first step in making progress is acknowledging you have a problem. The next step, and this is the sorts of things, these are lessons I learned, when we're trying to work on some of the labor issues. Saying, hey, there's a problem. You have to acknowledge there's a problem. The second step, and you see many, many big tech companies taking this step, is transparency. So first is, hey, I'm acknowledging conceptually there's a problem. The second step is, hey, I'm going to be transparent. And I'm going to show you the nature of the problem. So you've seen many big tech companies, and you know the names, and Microsoft included, now taking that step of transparency. And what transparency does, when you're transparent about these issues, it brings the bright light of accountability on you, because you can't be transparent year one and then be sitting there year two, and people are expecting that transparency to continue. One of the things that in the evolution at HP of the supply chain, the first step that we took, one of the early steps we took, was to say, we're going to disclose who our supply chain partners are. And we said, well, that's a trade secret. You can't tell. If you're a company that outsources a lot of activity and you hide behind third parties that have labor practices which you wouldn't want to be associated with, then you're not being accountable at all. So transparency is the beginning of change, the beginning of progress, and it is absolutely the foundation of accountability. So you see many big tech companies, most of them, now have taken that important step, and I think that is the tipping point. Because as soon as you're transparent, you're accountable. And if people don't rise to the challenge, then new leaders will come and rise to the challenge. So I think those are important steps, and they were taken deliberately and in a reasoned way, and with supports of boardrooms across the valley and around the world. And so I think we are making progress.
And how about that transparency and how it's linked to trust? Do you become a more trusted leader through that process? Do you become a more trusted company through that process?
Absolutely. Now, transparency is the beginning. If something's opaque in a relationship, whether it's between one-to-one or one-to-many, and there's mystery, and, well, I just can't tell you, just trust me on this, right? Versus, no, here are the facts. These are the facts, for better or for worse. Now let's deal with the facts and move forward. I think that's the beginning, that's the foundation of trust, transparency.
You've probably seen a lot of executives start on one issue and transform and change through transparency. You've seen organizations start and change on one issue and change through transparency. If you were to kind of look at that kind of process, what happens when somebody is not transparent, or they don't want to kind of get that out there? What do they start to experience?
Well, I can only speak for myself, and just to say, just for example, it wasn't until I went into I'm going back to the HP experience, because I spent 8.5 years there, and I've only been with Microsoft for 5 months, so I fall back and rely on that. And plus, we touch hundreds of thousands of people around the world. It's not until you go into these operations and you see these people, and they're quite young, and you look at the demographic, and you think, it's a weird thing to say, but each one of those persons is a real person just like me, and I can affect their lives and change their life. And so I think having that level of seeing them as real people, having the empathy to connect with them, driving to transparency, then trying to affect change, right? I think those are the core principles, and I see the industry, I see Microsoft, myself continuing on this journey, and the leaders in the industry, moving down the journey. Are they moving fast enough? You can argue not. Is there movement, and is transparency there an early and important first step? And do I see momentum and commitment at companies around the world? And do I see it at Microsoft? I absolutely do. And I wouldn't be there if I didn't believe that.
I want to ask you, I'm sure there's many people in this audience, and also many people who are watching online, who want to make that transformation in their own leadership and want to get to where you've gotten in your career and your growth and your evolution and your advancement, not only at HP and now Microsoft, but throughout your whole career. What do you think, what's the first step for somebody to take? It seems so daunting. These issues that you're talking about are massive issues. You're in a company, you want to create change. What's the first thing to do? What do you do?
Dialogue. So if you sit in your office or cube, and you're often surrounded with people that are often tell you just what you want to hear, right? And so the first step is to surround yourself with a circle of people, a circle of trust, that will actually tell you the things that you don't want to hear. And then you've got to reach well outside of that circle and to have dialogue with broader constituencies, broader groups, and that dialogue is the beginning of an awareness and understanding. You're saying, well, I didn't even know that was a problem, right? Yeah. I wouldn't have, for many of the things that I focused on at HP, until I went and saw and had dialogue, would not have focused on those things. So I think dialogue is the beginning. And then truly listening, being empathetic, and saying, hey, being willing to admit, you know what, I was wrong. Either I was blind to the problem, I was in denial, I'm part of the problem, now what do I do, right? And I think those are the early, and I think people who are learning individuals, that's the mark of a true leader, that they are learning individuals and able to make those steps of progress, dialogue, willing to admit their mistakes, willing to take the next step. I mean, that's what makes us human. When you stop learning and growing, you stop living, right? You're in stasis, you stop living.
Do they have to forgive themselves to be able to get to that kind of desire for change, or do they just kind of have self-recognition, or what is that an emotional, have you seen that turn into an emotional situation?
I just say self-awareness is critical, and that generally comes from outside. It's hard to be so introspective that you discover a flaw in yourself. I mean, how often does it say, I've just been sitting here thinking, I've been wrong about something, for 10 years. It's rare. It's really, truly having dialogue, listening to people, and creating an inflection point and a spark of, wow, was I wrong about that, right? And so I've had that many, many, many times in my life, in my relationships, et cetera, and then, you move forward from there.
Well, I really appreciate, touching on some of these issues. It was something I've been looking forward to in this interview, and I think it's an important part of Dreamforce that we talk not only about the technology, but we also talk about the human issues. So thank you for having that dialogue with me. And I'd like to just kind of change the channel and
Sure.
move into the discussion about Microsoft. We have seen a dramatic shift with Microsoft in a very short period of time, where it's been a huge, leadership change, and an incredible leader in the industry who's been with the industry for decades has literally left the industry and joined another industry. And Steve Ballmer left Microsoft, left the board, and is now with the NBA, basically with the Clippers. And Satya, who's been an incredible executive at Microsoft for a couple of decades, has come in now and is the new CEO of Microsoft, and has really kind of started, I think, in many ways with a beginner's mind, because now, I've had several meetings with Satya. It's how we got here today, and also how you got to Microsoft, because he's recruiting a new management team, which you are a core part of. How do you view that change, and how do you saw the CEO change at HP, here's this big CEO change happening at Microsoft. How do you see this change and transformation of Microsoft?
Well, first, I would say about Steve, I know Steve, and I think he's an incredible leader. And he's going to go on to do amazing things, and he did do amazing things. And he led Microsoft through many, many important transitions. He may never get credit for all the great things that he did. I never worked for him, but because I worked in that relationship, at the intersection of HP and Microsoft, I spent a lot of time with Steve over the years, and I hold him in very, very high regard. As I've joined Microsoft relatively shortly after Satya became CEO, and I see a company very focused on the mobile and cloud-first world. And not that they weren't before, but the sharpening of that focus and the decisions that are taken, the investments that are made, the partnerships that are struck, focused on a mobile and cloud-first world. And I think, in my experience, the keys of leading a large organization forward is clarity and consistency of purpose, and being able to state so people will know, almost in a soundbite, exactly what the company stands for. And I think we're at that juncture at Microsoft where people understand we're driving towards mobility in the cloud, we're driving towards platforms and productivity. And if you can't hang what you're doing off that framework, you start to scratch your head and say, well, how is this really relevant? Is this really part of the mission? Am I going to get resources to do what I'm trying to do? So I see that clarity in the decisions. And you mentioned the learning mindset. Well, I absolutely see that with Satya. I just was traveling with him in China a couple weeks ago, and he's just like, I'm just here to learn. He is just absorbing information and just there to learn. And so, but then at the same time, the ability on the strategy to be bold and decisive and take important decisions. And again, it wasn't that long into his tenure that this partnership was struck, which is a great example of his foresight, I think, and brilliant strategy. Now, we'll see over time, but my view, I think this is going to go down as one of the great partnerships in the technology industry.
Oh, I absolutely believe that, and I want to tap into that in a second, but before I do, I want to come back to one comment that you just made, which is that about the cloud and mobile focus, but there's another focus too, which is evidence that you're here and that he brought you in as one of his first key hires into Microsoft, and he's making these critical changes at the management team and looking for people like yourself who have a kind of a certain energy and feeling and operating style to bring into the company. So what does that also say about this kind of first chapter of Satya's leadership in terms of what he's taking on?
Well, I would say Microsoft has it's so many brilliant people that are the absolute thought leaders, of the technology and the industry on the forefront with great experience across almost every domain in which we participate in. I think when you have that, it's in any organization, I'm not just talking about Microsoft, when you can season that with a little bit of external perspective and bring that diversity of perspective and then be willing to listen. Because what I see is not just bringing different perspectives, but the willingness to listen to the different perspective and to weave that perspective and triangulate off it as you form strategy. I think that's what creates transformation of companies. That's what makes truly great companies that have, they don't move away from their roots and their strength, which Microsoft has many and a storied history, but to at the right time bring in points of triangulation and truly listen. I mean, I think that's how you move large organizations forward, and I see every evidence of that.
I am fascinated by the product change, the desire for partnerships, but I am also absolutely fascinated with the simple fact, number one, that you're here at stage, that he chose you as the representative of Microsoft for the show, which I thought was great. And also that John Thompson, who's somebody who I've had a strong friendship with for 25 years in the industry, since he was at IBM working in the PC area, and I worked with him when I was at Oracle, and he was with OS2, and then he went to Symantec, and now he's the chairman of Microsoft. And he's so tightly partnered as well with Satya that when I look at John, when I look at Satya, and when I look at you, I say, wow, we have three dramatically different leaders than what has been there for the last couple of decades. So to me, that's number one, an indication that there is a new Microsoft.
Yes.
Because the people are new at the top. And also that is quite a special team. And these are people that I have known, for decades. And I can say, wow, John Thompson is the chairman of Microsoft. That is astonishing to me, watching his whole career and where he started with and where he is now.
Yeah, John is an exceptional leader, a storied leader. The run he had at IBM, rising very near the top of IBM. His leadership of Symantec and now his leadership of Microsoft. One great, John I didn't know well, and at certain points in my career, I was looking for someone just to mentor me, to offer me advice of how you navigate Silicon Valley and technology. And I reached out to John, and he says, "Yeah, just come, we'll have dinner." And he made the time. And he really didn't know me at all, but made the time to take lunch, dinner, reach out, make real time, personal time, share his experience. What he's learned, his perspective, some of his relationships. I mean, he is someone who truly walks the talk. Has a high level of believing and driving the industry forward. So I'm a fan and an advocate, and I'm thrilled to see him, as the chairman of Microsoft.
Well, John and I were on this very stage in 1995, and I still have the video. I just sent him a glimpse of it. We both looked dramatically different at that point, and one of the first things that happened is as I said, I've known him for a long time, and here I got a phone call. You know, he became the chairman. He's like, oh, we need to get together with Satya and talk about how do we get these two great platforms, you know, working together. I had never had a phone call like that from Microsoft. That just completely blew me away and inspired me because, you know, I think a really critical part of being successful in our industry is having a beginner's mind. And I think at that point you could have a lot of different emotions because Salesforce and Microsoft have not always had the greatest partnership. So I was, you know, I had to stop for just a moment. It really helped that I got the phone call from John, but I had to just kind of take a stop and say, oh, are we ready to form, you know, a kind of a real true unification between Salesforce and Microsoft? And I said, yes, I'll go to dinner and let's talk about it.
Right. So when you talk about being a platform company, as a platform company, you really have to be ecosystem and partner-centric. And it's not, it can never be about proprietary stacks. And I think, you know, you think of all the and I won't name names, right? But you think of all the walled gardens and proprietary stacks in the technology industry, and which has survived? Which one of them have survived, a proprietary stack or a walled garden? And the ecosystems today, you can see it time and time again, the ecosystems that win and thrive in today's world are open ecosystems. So you look at what we're doing, you know, across the ecosystem. I mean, Windows is a super open, super Office. The Office API is super open platform. Your platforms, super open platforms. Putting these two open platforms together is great for the industry. It'll be a great catalyst to push the industry forward. Azure, the cloud, our cloud platform, extraordinarily open. I mean, most people wouldn't realize that nearly 25% of the VM machines in Azure are Linux. And you would think we'd have the dogma of SQL and Windows Server, but we embrace Linux, we embrace Hadoop, we embrace PHP, we embrace Python, we embrace Node.js, not just .NET. Mm-hmm. So I think what you'll see, and you are seeing, and it didn't just start, that we're working to build open platforms like Azure, open platforms like Office, open platforms like Windows, and that means partnerships. That means embracing partners, embracing innovation, and leadership from outside the company, and weaving that into the success, because that's what our customers demand, and that's how you truly create value in the seams between these great organizations.
Mm-hmm. So, new vision for the company, well articulated, new people driving that vision, new partnerships, like with Salesforce. And tomorrow, in my keynote at 1:30, I'm going to show the new version of Salesforce 1 that we're already started to roll out here at the show, which is called Lightning. And we have an incredible demonstration of it happening right now in Moscone West. That incredible next-gen platform is deeply integrated with Office 365, and we're going to show that on stage. That's happened in a very short period of time with this kind of new focus. So what is next then? Where is this going with Microsoft? I mean, we see a transformation of the company. You know, what should we be anticipating? How do we align with your interests?
Well, I think the idea of platforms and being ecosystem agnostic. So I think you can see with Office that, you know, I'm sure I wasn't there when these decisions were taken. I wasn't that party to them, but that these were not easy decisions to say, we're going to bring Office to the iPad or the iOS ecosystem. We're going to bring Office to the Android ecosystem. I think those were, I'm sure, exceedingly difficult decisions. But again, to truly be a leader in the platform world, that kind of openness. So I think you can extrapolate from there, saying, truly trying to build scaled platforms that are open, that are collaborative, that are partner-centric, and that have got world-class partners and technology partners like Salesforce from around the world. Narrowly for Windows, you know, what's next is Windows 10. And our objective with Windows 10 is first of all a new process for developing an OS. And so we released what we're calling a tech preview, which is much, much earlier than we ever would release bits into the wild. And it certainly is not the final UI, but you can see some of the features. We've had a great response to it. We had more than 1 million downloads of the tech preview. We just released it 2 weeks ago. And the reason that we're doing that is so that we can listen to our customers. And the early focus of this development process is to listen to our enterprise customers. And our intent and our objective is to build absolutely the best OS ever for the enterprise, for Windows 10. That's our early focus today. And so we've begun the process. We've got the bits out there. We've got 1 million people using it, and we're listening real time to what they like, what they don't like, what's compatible, what's not compatible, the features they like. And you can count on what you're seeing out there in the tech preview, which has got a lot of great features. Some of them came from 7, some of them came from 8, but some of them are new, like the virtual desktops, like our new multitasking capabilities. Of course, we brought the start menu back. But what you can expect is when the and that's usually surprisingly an applause line, because people love that, and I think we're listening. So we're listening, and it's coming back. But what you can expect is there will be more magic. So what you're seeing is a preview. And when this thing finally lands, there will be
what
more magic and more
what
features.
happened to Windows 9?
Well, I'll just quote Satya. It came and it went. But what I would say is, Windows 10 is not going to be an incremental step from Windows 8.1. Windows 8.1 was a material step from Windows 8. And so those of you that aren't into the nuance of it, it had a much better user experience for someone using a mouse and keyboard. But Windows 10 is going to be a material step. An integration of the platform, trying to create one platform, one ecosystem that unites as many of the devices from the small embedded, what people will call today the Internet of Things, we called embedded for years, through phones, through tablets, through PCs, and ultimately into the Xbox to integrate that into a single platform, a single app ecosystem, a single development environment, which is critical for attracting developers, and in a single store. So it's not an incremental step. It's a quantum step, and it's Windows 10.
You're listening to your customers. What is one thing that they like about Windows 10? What is one thing they do not like about Windows 10?
Well, the early read that we're getting from the customers is they really, really love the changes to the UI. And the start menu seems like a small thing, but they bringing that back. The multiple desktops, the multitasking, the ability to take what we call a modern app and run it in a window on the desktop, which you couldn't do before in Windows 8.1. These are things that I think that they really love about Windows 10. And our aspiration is that people don't just like Windows 10. Our aspiration is that people will love Windows 10. Some of the things that they don't like are the things that they haven't seen yet. So we're working on a suite of, in listening to our enterprise customers, of features that we think are going to delight our enterprise customers. So we have listened, and to the features that are key to them are around identity, around security, and not just securing the device, but securing the data, around management, and not just embracing our own management tools or MDM, mobile device management tools, but embracing third-party tools as well, and around deployment and making it easy to deploy devices, seamlessly around the world, and to provision those devices over the network. The revenue have to have the device in hand and provision the device. So those are the things that are not yet out there, that when people see the full vision of this, I think they're gonna love the whole thing. Not just enterprises, but at a time there'll come a time when we'll talk to consumers about it as well.
Another key platform is Office 365, and you're also responsible for that.
No, I want to be clear. I'm not Windows only, but
you're only Windows. But
yeah.
we'll talk about Office 365. You're not yet responsible for that. So, kind of the basis of our partnership coming together as well. Kind of two platforms that you have that are very important to the industry: Windows and Office. You have it running in the cloud. You have it running on my iPhone. You have it running on my iPad. I use it every day. Where is that going?
Okay, so I think that our collaboration, it's almost I want to say inevitable, but had it not been for great leadership, it wouldn't have happened. And so you think of your customers and the amount of time that they spend in the Salesforce work process. And you think about businesses around the world and the amount of time that they spend in Office, in Outlook, in Excel, in PowerPoint, in Word, and that is generally, it's an overstatement, but it is the language of business, and the way business gets done are in the Office productivity tools. And so you've got these two worlds where you're spending time in this world, time in that world, and for them not to interoperate, you've got to come out of this world and go into this world, and you want to open a document, but you can't access it, or you've got something on SharePoint over here, or something's on Salesforce files over here, was just creating friction, and it wasn't serving our customers well. And so the spirit of the partnership is now to make those experiences seamless. So whether you're coming from the Salesforce context, or you're coming from the office context, that those two ecosystems, those two platforms will interoperate. And so when you want to open, work on, connect, or share content, reports, data, that you're able to seamlessly do that regardless of where the data is residing, whether it's in Salesforce files, whether it's in SharePoint, SharePoint Online, or OneDrive for Business. That's the spirit, that's the vision, that's the endpoint that we're driving to, and I think that's going to just absolutely delight our customers around the world.
You know, you've been a huge leader in the industry. I've made that point. You know, what's been your biggest surprise with cloud computing? You obviously, you know, we obviously were able to do some amazing things together when Meg became the CEO of HP, and HP has become one of our very largest and most successful customers. I think you were one of the most important leaders in transforming HP's sales and service and marketing processes using Salesforce. You have an in-depth understanding of the cloud and what it can and cannot do. Where do you think all this is going?
Yeah, I think, you know, to the original point about the surprise, I think few people, maybe other than you know, would have predicted the rate at which, almost geometric, hyperbolic rate at which the amount of data and that the cloud would be growing. You know, our perspective, and we, you know, Microsoft, you know, we come at this first from customer-focused services, and that's where we really started in the cloud. So you think about Bing, you think about Skype, you think about Outlook.com, which has 400 million users. You think about Xbox Live. We've got an extraordinary portfolio, second largest, we believe, in the world, suite of customer-focused cloud-based services. And that gives us scale. Putting up the infrastructure to deliver those services gives us true scale. And that scale allows us to offer networking, storage, compute, to offer virtual machines to our partners in the infrastructure world. But where we see it going, and where it obviously is, and where we're focused now on leading, because we want to always make sure in the infrastructure as a service world that we've got a great offering that's compelling, it's global, it's easily provisioned, and that it has a great value proposition. But in the platform world, one of the things we think we are distinctive in is, one, is being agnostic. And again, embracing things like Hadoop, you know, having virtual machines that are running Linux, embracing PHP and Python and Ruby, and not just .NET and not just Visual Studio. So embracing the broad array of development environments and languages, because we need to, as a platform, you have to be agnostic. And then what we have a unique portfolio of what we call managed services or horizontal services on top of the platform layer, and things like identity. And identity, it's not that, people don't think about that as, you might not think about that as a very, you know, a magical or just some compelling service. But identity is the core of everything in an enterprise. And that's what gives you access. That's what creates security. And so with our Active Directory services, we have 2 billion authentications a day. So it is, I would argue, the scale identity service. So offering that to us as a service, that identity service, machine learning, business insights, big data, media, serving media, web, gaming, mobile, those 8 services, offering those horizontally across the platform of services, we think is unique and differentiating us from some of the other folks out there in the platform world. And I see great prospect for what you do and complementarity between what Salesforce does and what we do. And we have high hopes for partnership and to bring some of your activities over onto our platform.
Well, one thing that I'm fascinated to ask you is, why was the Salesforce partnership prioritized by Satya and the board? Why was this so important to you to get this done, get here to Dreamforce, build the product, and launch it as one of the first things that Satya did?
Okay. Now, I was not part of the decision process, so I can only reason about it after the fact. But you think about, if you declare that you're going to be a leader in mobile-first, cloud-first world, and you don't have a relationship with a recognized leader in the mobile and cloud-first world, then it rings hollow. And no matter how much the tension there might be or points of competition there might be, and it will remain between the businesses, if you've got a platform and you're mobile-first and cloud-first, then you've got to embrace the leaders in the mobile and cloud-first world, and that will only make the platform stronger. And so I have every confidence of that, and that's why I imagine after the fact, reasoning after the fact, that I wasn't in the decision-making process. Somebody preceded me. Why we came to this, and why we're so after the fact, why we're so excited about the promise that this partnership holds.
Well, Tony, I want to thank you for coming back again to Dreamforce, and it's great to have you. It's great to have Microsoft. It's certainly a year ago at Dreamforce, we would not have thought Microsoft would be here this year on stage. It's a shock, but I think it's really important that, I wouldn't have thought it would be you from Microsoft, And, that's what's amazing about our industry. Things are constantly changing, moving forward. Things are constantly getting lower cost, easier to use. And as a leader, you have to be constantly changing. You have to be ready for this kind of inevitability of change. And I think that's why we all have to keep beginner's mind as leaders, because we have to be ready for what's next and what the next opportunity is. So I want to thank you on behalf of Salesforce, on our customers, Dreamforce attendees for coming today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you. Great to have you. Thanks.